While the surface of Minecraft is filled with friendly beings, a deep dark secret lies beneath them. The friendly villagers' mobs can't seem to notice or care for these secrets and often ignore them. These are the things that hold a creepy, dark yet mysterious lore that we are trying to cover here. Welcome another deep splash on the Minecraft lore. The surface of Minecraft, where there are beautiful trees, the sun, villagers, lands, mountains lie. The same cannot be said for the eerie caves, dungeons, abandoned mineshafts, ancient cities that lie below. Filled with a creepy look and lore, they can often be misjudged by the players. Today we will be taking a closer look at Beast of Great Power. If the player is not careful, it will summon a being with great power said to come from another dimension. So, grab your popcorn and let's take a closer look at the Warden. Now, to understand the Warden at its best, we must first understand the habitat of the Warden, or the nature of the Warden. Wardens can be found at ancient cities where a combination of bluish and greenish organism like a virus is slowly spreading across. These squishy substances are not found anywhere else aside the ancient cities and the caves. It's still mystery about from where these came from, but that is what we are trying to find out in this video. We understand it is squishy because of the sound it makes while walking over it. Take a look. Now when you break Skulk, it doesn't drop Skulk block. It drops experience points, which is odd. Take a look, then I will explain. Now in Minecraft, experience is energy. Magic in Minecraft is weird. When you are going to enchant something, it takes experience as currency or energy, converting the amount of energy you have into an enchantment. This can also be said for mobs. When a mob dies, the energy it has is dropped as experience until another player or things picks it up. Same can be said for the player. When the player dies, his or her or its energy is turned into experience and dropped. Much like real-life energy, it cannot be created nor destroyed. It only can be reformed, or it can change form. But there's also another thing called soul energy that we can find in the Nether. In the Nether we are able to find a resource called soul sand. It is interesting to say the least. Being able to transfer energy, creating special fires that are hotter, able to be providing nutrients to allow life in the Nether. But the most peculiar one was when you run or walk over it is using speed boots, you will see some particles being released. Take a look. Soul energy and experience energy are different forms of the same energy. Now this brings us back to Skulk. It appears that Skulk is somehow storing this energy. The Skulk block just simply collects it and releases it when it is broken by an entity or a player. Now comes another important question. How is the Skulk able to obtain such energy? That too in such a large amount. This brings us to the Skulk Catalyst. The Skulk Catalyst is interesting. Whenever a player or mob or anything that drops experience for that matter dies, the experience is turned into vines and Skulk blocks. It appears that the experience or energy the Skulk Catalyst gets from a mob dying allows for more Skulk to grow, spreading like a virus. So, if I'm not wrong, then the energy or experience is absorbed by the Skulk Catalyst and then turned into Skulk blocks and vines, allowing it to spread. We have more evidence showing or guiding us understand the way this works. The animation when these Skulk blocks make while a mob is killed near them is similar to the one we find while walking on soul sand with soul speed. Take a look at some examples over here for you better understanding. Now what weird is that upon breaking a sculk block you can hear these same souls screaming. Now that we understand the basic functionality of the sculk catalyst, we are able to understand why the majority of ancient cities are filled with sculk. When a mob or an entity is to be killed near a catalyst, there is a 90% chance of a sculk blocks growing or consuming an area. But there is a 9% chance of another block growing. The sculk sensor. These half-blocks are capable of sensing vibrations or are capable of sensing sound. These sounds can be produced by the player walking, opening containers, breaking blocks, eating. Upon detection the sculk sensor lights up and its tentacles become more excited. However, there is a weakness. Wool has a property of neutralizing those vibrations being sensed by the sculk sensors. The wool can absorb those sounds. Sneaking also does this, removing all vibrations from the sensor. This in itself is already a much more advanced use of the soul energy that the catalyst has created. But the sculk catalyst can do another interesting thing. Once in every 100 times it grows it will create a sculk shrieker. It appears to be made up of sculk with 4 bony teeth coming out like the ones seen in the catalyst. To add the cherry on top we can see 2 souls chasing each other on the top of the shrieker. Clearly this block has a lot of soul energy trapped within and is capable of doing some unique things. The sculk sensor and the shrieker are connected. When the sensor detects vibrations by the player it sends a signal to the shrieker, which has no way of detecting vibrations by itself. This way a group of sculk sensors can act as a sensing network for shriekers. But what happens when the shrieker receives this signal? When the sensor sends a signal to the shrieker an unpleasant noise is created followed by some blue particles with an effect disabling the player to see properly followed by a heartbeat. As you irritate the shrieker for 4 times in a short duration, you hear something rising. You check your surrounding and find a tall and fat beast rising from the ground. This thing whatever it is has no intentions aside from killing. It's blind but it can hear and smell you. Meet the warden. The warden is a powerhouse in every single way. It has an unimaginable 250 hearts of health. That is equal to the Wither and the Ender Dragon combined. It is completely immune to fire, fall damage and lava. Its defense is as good as its offense. It deals a whopping 22.5 hearts of damage on hard mode and above that disabled shields for 5 seconds. But our monster problems don't end there. The warden has weaponized itself to be able to use vibrations to attack called a sonic attack. It deals about 7.5 hearts of damage and bypasses all shields and armor. The ranged sonic boom attack can travel almost 20 blocks. We can say that it's a more advanced way of sensor given the visual similarities. Not only that but the warden can also apply an effect called darkness, blinding the player or giving the player low visibility. This basically puts the warden at the same plane by removing the ability to see. And to see for the player it's a pretty big advantage as the warden is blind and is dependent on smell and sound to detect its enemy. It also has the tentacles on its head allowing it to sense vibrations and signals sent by the sensor. When there are more sensors, the warden is more effective, but it has the same exact weakness of wool and sneaking removing vibrations. Wardens will kill anything until it produces vibrations. Whether it be a villager, wandering trader to a skeleton or ender dragon or a wither. The warden is made to kill as much as it can in a short amount of time. Its melee attack, ranged attack rivals the wither. How is the warden so strong? Let us find out. We can get some insight on how the warden is so powerful by looking at it visually. On its head it has the same tentacles found on the sculk sensors. They are used to sense vibrations and receive vibrations from sculk sensors. The warden's feet are also made with a reinforced bone material. The same one found on the sculk catalyst. But the real EY is found within its chest. Within its rib cage we can find 3 glowing souls. This is what powers the warden. From this we understand that the warden contains a whole lot of soul energy. Here is a clip from Retro Gaming Now to make you understand better.
The ethereal tones of souls that we've heard in other Skulk components. Furthermore, the souls pulse alongside the heartbeat of the warden, indicating that these souls are the life force powering the beast.
The warden is a combination of soul energy from dead beings. The catalyst has produced some interesting capabilities. At first the soul energy was stored in Skulk blocks, then it was used to create sensors that can detect vibrations. Then that energy was used to create shriekers, and finally created a being whose only purpose is to kill as much as it can in a short period of time. A being that is approaching the level of sentience, a being who can think. Simply this makes perfect sense. Because of the warden, the Skulk catalyst isn't independent on random mobs dying near it to absorb its energy. Instead the catalyst created a mob that is used to kill mobs near it in a short amount of time, conveniently giving the Skulk the energy it requires to grow. We have come across a life cycle. Basically, one small thing is evolving and creating new things that are stronger and help out the entire species of Skulk. In a way we can say the Skulk is like a hive mind. We have discussed so much about the Skulk catalyst, the Skulk, warden and many more things, yet we miss out on one key link. How are Skulk catalyst produced? If you manage to kill the warden, it will drop a Skulk catalyst, completing the cycle. The Skulk catalyst is like an egg. If you have one you can basically create anything in the Skulk family. We know that at one point there were many mobs, but the warden killed a lot of mobs for this much amount of Skulk being produced. So much so that we see no mobs in the deep dark. There are some things we haven't quite understood yet. Such as why the Skulk is only found in a specific biome deep underground, but within the deep dark we also find one more specific thing. Something not so natural. The ancient city. By this point we all know that the ancient city is a city made by an advanced race of civilization. As I have discussed in my previous video, an ancient race of civilization existed. They were responsible for making all the structures in the game, like the desert temples, strongholds, jungle temples and all, since they were the only ones able to build along with you. There we discussed that something really bad happened to the builders, forcing them to go underground. They built strongholds, ancient cities, mines to somehow escape this thing that brought them below the trees. They soon discovered a portal that led them to another dimension. The end portal. The ones who weren't able to escape with them were stuck and needed a way out. There they built ancient cities and were experimenting on technology. For a way to escape, for a chance to unite with the others. Little did they know what they brought into the world. They found a new resource called reinforced deep slate. They thought this could be the substitute for the end portal frames and started making different types of portals. In one they were successful. A large portal frame we today see in the ancient cities. They ignited the portal and brought the warden into a peaceful world. They slowly learned to survive with it, cleverly using wool to reduce vibrations. That started to run experiments on the Skulk sensors, which we find the remains of today under the portal. They were looking to kill the warden and reunite with their friends who were now stuck in the end. Determined, they gathered all the loot they could find and fought the warden. Many of them lost their lives, but they were successful in killing it. The loot we find, the chests, are the valuables of the many who lost their lives fighting the warden. The Skulk catalyst the warden dropped, they used it as a trophy. As they fought normal zombies, skeletons near the Skulk catalyst, the energy allowed the Skulk to grow, and before they realized what they had done, it was too late. What we see today is the remains and presence of a once advanced race of builders. Yet one question remains unanswered. What led to all of this? What was so bad that led to the ancient builder building portals, trying to escape? What was that thing?